All right, this video is on properties of water. We're going to talk about unique properties of water and how polarity affects how water interacts with other substances and buffers and why they're important. The water molecule is a polar molecule, which means that the electrons are unevenly shared. They spend a little more time around the oxygen, a little less time around the hydrogen, and you get a distribution of partial charges like you see in the diagram here. Hydrogen bonds are attractions between hydrogen atoms with a partial positive charge and another atom with a partial negative charge. And you can see they're illustrated by the dashed lines here. The special properties of water are due to the fact that water can form hydrogen bonds, at least many of them are. Cohesion is the attraction between molecules of the same substance. And so when water molecules are attracted to each other, they form surface tension, which allows things like the water strider to walk on the water and so forth. Adhesion, which is attraction between molecules of different substances, water and the sides of a tube in this case, results in capillary action or the movement of water up a small tube due to adhesion. This is how water moves through plants up from the roots into the stems through tiny tubes called xylem tubes. You can see the smaller the tube, the further up the water can travel. It also results in the meniscus when you use a graduated cylinder to measure volume. Heat capacity is the amount of energy needed to raise a substance's temperature by making its molecules move faster. Water has a high heat capacity, which means that water tends to stay at the same temperature. This makes it easier for living things to keep their body temperature the same. It also means that large bodies of water have relatively stable temperatures as well. Heat of vaporization is the amount of energy needed to change liquid water to water vapor. Water has a high heat of vaporization, which makes sweat evaporating more efficient at cooling. It takes a lot of energy from your body, a lot of heat from your body, to convert that liquid sweat, that liquid water, into water vapor. The density of ice is unique. Most things, when they freeze, they become more and more dense as the temperature gets lower and lower. But water is actually most dense at 4 degrees, so ice floats because it's less dense than the 4 degrees Celsius water. Lakes and ponds freeze at the top, which insulates water below and allows living things to survive the winter in colder climates. So water is good at dissolving things. It's a good solvent. Water's polarity gives it the ability to dissolve both ionic compounds and other polar molecules. So when you talk about things dissolving in water, the solution is a type of mixture where the components are evenly dispersed in the water in this case. What gets dissolved is the solute, and what does the dissolving, in this case water, is the solvent. You can also have a suspension, which is a mixture of water and undissolved materials, like the cells in blood. Suspensions, if you let them sit, the heavier particles settle to the bottom. pH is an important thing for living things. In order for living things to function properly, they have to maintain the proper pH, and sometimes the pH in certain parts of their body is different than others. pH in our stomach is very low, very acidic. pH in our intestine is more neutral. So if something has a low pH, it's acidic, it has a higher hydrogen ion concentration. A high pH is a basic or alkaline solution. It has a lower concentration of hydrogen ions. So we measure hydrogen ion concentration. We measure pH on the pH scale, which goes from 0 to 14. 0 to 7 is acidic. Above 7 to 14 is basic. And 7 is neutral, where the hydrogen ion and the hydroxide ion concentration are equal. Pure water is the only thing that has a neutral pH, naturally. So in relationship to living things, buffers help regulate homeostasis. So buffers are weak acids and bases that prevent large changes in pH by absorbing or releasing hydrogen ions. So if you have an unbuffered base and an acid, you get an acidic pH. But a buffered base and an acid can keep the pH more basic.